Give me your picks, give me your insights. I want the bets from Betting Weekly. Because we win, that is our motto. Sometimes we win, sometimes we don't win. Don't give us the bird, don't give us your stink eye. We try our best and we're successful. Come watch our show, Bet River sponsors. It's time to start, enjoy the show.
Welcome in, everyone, to Betting Weekly Live. It is Tuesday, the 15th of July. You're with Steve Wyss and Ruairidh Barlow is alongside me. I want to welcome in an audience on Twitch and also on X today, multi-streaming to different platforms. Ruairidh, how are things with you? Interesting sort of period in the soccer calendar now. The World Cup's finished. We've still got Women's Euros and stuff like that. The new domestic season is about a month away in general. How do you reflect on that Club World Cup overall? Was it a positive overall or a negative, do you think, for you?
Certainly a positive for Chelsea. Delighted to be on again. Steve, thank you for that fine welcome and welcome to everyone as well. I think with the Club World Cup, it will very much depend because I think PSG, you can look at it and say that they really kind of pushed themselves and they looked very tired at the end of that Chelsea game and very frustrated, it has to be said as well. But they will have a tranquil enough league season that they can kind of get over this and they can rest players kind of throughout the season in the league campaign. For the likes of Real Madrid, it's not great preparation for the domestic season. I think this probably will take its toll on Chelsea as well, even though they have a very big squad. So I think every individual team will have kind of different conclusions to take from this. And within that, there's obviously nuance as well. I mean, I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about Real Madrid, but Xabi Alonso, I think, probably didn't want to take this over, had some good things come out of this, but also made it abundantly clear what problems he has to solve. And I don't quite know whether he's going to get the tools to solve them.
Is there a fallout from the Real Madrid semi-final defeat because it was a big one? And, you know, it's not often Real Madrid get beaten 4-0. In a game. I mean, I listened to Xabi Alonso's comments after the game. He seemed quite calm. He was kind of moving the blame towards the physical aspect, saying that this is not part of the new season. It's the back end of the original season. And we all need a break. That's all you're hearing that from all the coaches, to be fair. You know, it might be a case of he's kind of got away with it. He's just doing the job as a bit of a goodwill gesture. But, you know, I do know from past experience, if Real Madrid do take a big beating, there can be a bit of an outcry.
Yeah, it's convenient enough that he can kind of blame this on the last season. And you could argue it two ways because I personally, I think that Xabi Alonso made some quite good progress even within those kind of 5-6 games that they played. They looked a different side positionally. They were playing a different style with Dean Housen in the side. They looked like they were capable of bringing the ball out and kind of hurting teams in different ways, even if there were definitely holes in their performances as well. At the same time as that, there's the same conclusion that you can draw as well. How much credit can you really give Xabi Alonso if he's had 6 games? It's been about 20 days of training. So depending on which way you want to slant this, you can slant it quite positively or negatively. As I say, I think there's nuances. I think Gonzalo Garcia, the emergence of him as kind of a goal scorer as an option off the bench is very useful for Xabi Alonso. I think it would have been good for him to clarify what he thinks he needs going into next season, which I think is a midfielder. I don't know if he'll get that. And on the flip side, it really eats into his preparation time. I think after this Club World Cup, he won't get that kind of lead-in period, that kind of month or two where you get it when you come into a new job. Less so at Real Madrid, but even still, where you can kind of tinker about a bit, where you can try a few things and people give you that grace time. So I think as soon as the season starts now, Xabi Alonso will be under pressure, but I also think that he does clearly have a head start in terms of knowing what he needs to do and how to kind of structure his approach going into that new season. And of course, number one issue on that is getting the best out of Kylian Mbappe and Vinicius Jr., who played together once and it did not work very well.
Chris, quick question then. Real Madrid to win La Liga -134. Is that a play or a fade?
To play for me, I think you're asking Barcelona to do a lot of things right again in order to beat this Real Madrid team, which was very inconsistent and yet still somehow was in the title race with 4 games to go. So I think law of averages, I think Real Madrid will come back and win this league title. I think they'll be more consistent, even if I like their chances of winning the Champions League less under Alonso than I did under Ancelotti.
Yeah, we're going to come back to La Liga later. We're going to talk about the relegation market because those odds are now up. A reminder, so many futures bets are now out for the mainstream leagues in Europe. Bet Rivers are about a month away, but the early bird does catch the worm sometimes. You can get some odds which will, I know people were backing Chelsea at 22-1 to win the Premier League a few weeks ago. They're as short as 8-1 now. So doesn't mean they're going to win it, but if you're after a bit of value, there's things you can do. You can back teams early. Welcome into all. Like I said, good to see Rick Haley, Mike, a Villa fan as well, Duncan Evans, William Jenner. Good morning from South Florida to you as well. He says that loss meant nothing to Real Madrid, and they can get back on the horse and win La Liga next season. Maybe Ryan Gwerting, great to see RJ. Always good to see you, a friend of the show. I hope you're doing really well, RJ, with your little one as well. Ming Chung, Maninda Puraha as well. Kit Kat is here to say hello to you all. Meninda says, is Camavinga a write-off of Real Madrid as a starting midfielder now? Because, he's been around loads of different positions, hasn't he? I don't know where you think his best spot is, Rory, but how's he been there? Is he rated at Real Madrid?
I think there's an appreciation that he has a level of raw talent. And I think one thing you can look at is say that he had 3 years under Ancelotti where he didn't really develop much from the player that arrived. He did improve, he did get better, but not huge amounts. There's not kind of a wide range of skills that he has that he didn't have before. So that, I think, is one thing to take into account, which works against him. Xabi Alonso, I think, will develop him more. So I think Alonso will work out ways to get the best out of him in ways that Ancelotti perhaps didn't, and use him in different kind of fashion, use him in different situations. However, having said that, I think it's very difficult. I think it benefits him if Alonso plays a 3 in midfield, but you look at the competition, Bellingham, Tchouaméni, Valverde, he simply doesn't get into that side for me. And I think Alonso would like another midfielder, and Camavinga is not necessarily the style of midfielder that he wants. I think the things that Camavinga gives you, Valverde gives you that, and so much more. So yeah, it's going to be a tough season for him to kind of make up ground, as they said in the Spanish press this morning, to get back to where he was even.
Notable winners and losers yesterday on the sportsbook, and the 2 biggest winners were in the cricket. England to beat India, $14,000. It was a really close win. I really enjoyed watching that match, actually. And also Australia on the money line at minus 455 to beat the West Indies. Lowest test score in something like 70 years. The West Indies have bowled out for 27 yesterday. So quite an easy win there for that particular bet at $10,000. On the soccer, not a bad day either. Mjällby were a popular bet yesterday on Allsvenskan. Jack Wright had a winner on this show, over 1.5 first half goals, cashed inside 16 minutes. But there was 13,000 on Mjällby on the money line against then. Also $15,000 on the over 3 Asian total push. That was at minus 118. There's a house special that I really have got to mention right now, straight off the bat, and that is to do with the Open Championship Golf, which starts on Thursday at Port Rush in Northern Ireland. And Bet Rivers, if you just have to do is log into your Bet Rivers account, place a pre-tournament bet for the Open Championship, and you will get a 30% pre-tournament profit boost. It's a huge offer, well worth taking up. Bet with Bet Rivers for the Open Championship, which starts on Thursday. And tomorrow we've got a live show, which is going to preview the event. Simon Holden, Dan Robert, Neil Channing. That's the plan. So don't miss that tomorrow. And I'll have a quick breakdown of some Open Championship notable wagers before the end of the show as well. But we're in a weird position now, Rory. It's what you call qualification period. Champions League, Europa League, Conference League as well. The action's already underway, actually, in Kazakhstan. In fact, there's been a goal. Kairat Almaty are 1-0 up against Olympia Ljubljana. And you can bet on the Bet Rivers app in play. Quite pleased, actually. I actually had a 4-fold, including Kairat. The 4-fold I've took today is on 4 teams at 20-1. This is a little bit of pizza money. I actually took the team that are leading now. I've took the Lincoln Red Imps that kick off in 20 minutes' time, the Gibraltar team. And I've also had a nibble of Shkendija against the New Saints and Milsami against KuPS. But we'll come to them games soon. In fact, we may as well talk about this game. Shkendija against the New Saints, Macedonian champions against the Welsh champions. We both like the home team here. Rory, you probably will know more about the Welsh team than me. But they're actually based in England, in Oswestry, but playing the Welsh League. They didn't manage to get a first leg lead. 0-0 this was. New Saints were the minus money favourites last week. Put in a disappointing performance. It was a balanced game, deserved draw by all accounts. They really needed that first leg lead because you don't want to be travelling to Eastern Europe, do you? Needing to get a result.
Not particularly. And one of the key things to take into account and where I'm kind of basing my thinking off here is that Shkendija are right in the middle of their season and they're involved in a title race. So, yeah, that for New Saints who are just in pre-season, these are the first kind of few games they're playing, going away from home, as you say, to a difficult place to go to. It's just not a pretty kind of proposition if you're a New Saints. So I like Shkendija on the money line here, minus 121. I think that just it makes sense. I think the things are in place there for Shkendija to win, and Shkendija do have kind of some pedigree in Europe. I mean, pedigree is maybe the wrong word when we're talking about the Champions League at the same time, but they have been in and around these European competitions quite consistently for the last few years. So they'll know what they're doing, and they'll be favourites at home. And I think they'll back themselves, especially having got that draw away from home. They'll feel that it's just a case of finishing the job.
I was surprised to see the New Saints minus money last week to win. I know they were at home, but the Welsh League is, to put it mildly, it's not a very strong league. It's one of the worst in the coefficient. The New Saints, of course, did make a Conference League last year in the group stages. I'm not going to say it's easy, but for any champions of a domestic league in Europe, the way that the qualification process goes now, you haven't got a bad chance of making the group stage of the Conference League, even if you keep losing your rounds. I think you only have to win one round eventually, and that's what they did. They needed a lead for me in that first leg. I think Shkendija here will get the result, and minus 121 with Bet Rivers just to win on the money line. I think that's enough. It's a really for the New Saints, this will be a tough place to go. We both totally agree with that bet. There's another bet we agree on as well. But before that, I'm going to talk a bit about this match here. Milsami against KuPS. Now, this is the Moldovan champions against the Finnish champions. One thing to say about the Moldovan league is it's a bit weird dynamic where there's a split and then it comes down to the championship round. You don't keep your points that you got in the opening phase. Sheriff are the best team from Moldova. They have been for years. But the last 2 years, Petrokub and Milsami have won that league. What has really stood out is how poor the Finnish teams have been in qualification so far. KuPS did win the first leg 1-0, but it was a poor performance, really, and more was expected of them. And to only win 1-0 probably was disappointing from that perspective. And then you had the other three teams from Finland. Shakhtar Donetsk beat Ilves at 6-0. Ilves are second in that league right now. SJK lost at home to a Faroese side, KI 2-1. And then HJK Helsinki, the biggest team in Finland by a long way, they lost 4-0 away to another Faroese team called Runavík. So it was a terrible round for the Finnish teams. And I was doing some digging, and it does seem that league is not in a great way right now. The strength is not there. I don't really get how KuPS here are plus 118 to win. They don't need to win for a start, right? And Milsami, I think, are worth a go here on a draw no bet handicap. Again, Moldova, you don't really want to be going there. The best time of year, really, especially now. And you're going to get a crowd to get on top of them. I think the draw no bet here, Tino bet plus 118 on Milsami is well worth a bet. I'm going to oppose these Finnish teams whilst they're showing this sort of form. I actually think HJK Helsinki on Thursday will get a decent win in the return leg there, but I can't help myself considering the form of the Finnish league. So that would be my second bet. today. And then this Malmo game against Iberia. Malmo won the first leg 3-1, minus 560 to win the second leg. It's not so much money line or handicaps we're looking at here, Rory. Looking at over goals. Talk us through your thinking on this game.
Yeah, over 2.5 and Malmo to win is at minus 150, which I know is short, but I do think this is safe. I mean, Iberia in 1999 are going across the entirety of Europe. They're coming from Georgia. It's a very long way, and even if they're in their season, Malmo, as Steve, you'll be able to give us a little bit more detail on them, but they are, again, another side that are used to these kind of European ties. They've had a week's break as well, or not had a week's break, but they've had kind of time to prepare for this at home. I just think Malmo will be pretty comfortable here, and it's a case of how many, not when or if. So yeah, that's why I'm kind of looking at it, even if it is that shorter price at minus 150. And yeah, Malmo have good history of putting to sore Scottish teams as it happens in recent years. So I know that they can score quite a few or get quite a few big scores in these early qualifying rounds.
Yeah, there was. Last week I mentioned I was a bit concerned about Malmo's form, but they have picked up. That was a good win for them. 3-1. They had another 3-1 win against North Shopping at the weekend. Seemed to have found that goal scoring touch. They were really dominant last week. This was a banana skin fixture for them. It was maybe their best performance of the year. Made me think that perhaps they are focusing on a European run this summer. They certainly would want to make at least probably the Europa League, bare minimum Conference League. But I think they'd like to get a good run going in this Champions League qualifying run, maybe even make final qualifying or the one before that. And I think over 2.75 goals here at minus 125 is worth a bet. The Georgian champions have got to come here and have a go. It's as simple as that. And I think Malmo are very capable of picking them off. They've got a big squad. They can rotate. And this match just screams goals, a bit like the first leg, really. Malmo could cover the line on their own. The Georgian side are going to have to go for it. Maybe they can get a goal from somewhere. I don't see it petering into a 0-0, really, unless it was close late on and Malmo would be hanging on to like some sort of weird advantage. But I really do I like the goals there as well. I really do. Just looking through some of the other games from the Champions League qualifying today. We've also got Hamrun Spartans against Zalgiris. That's the Maltese champions against Lithuanian champions. 2-0 lead for Zalgiris. It's going to be very hot in Malta. I think bordering certainly mid-90s in Fahrenheit, 33 degrees Celsius. Nothing caught my eye there. RFS Levadia. That was a match I actually lost on last week. I bet on the goals in that game, and it was a tight match. RFS lead 1-0. They should get the job done, but they don't need to win. And then on to some other games as well. Breidablik against Egnatia. For those who subscribe to the Betting Weekly newsletter, they will have an exclusive pick from Jack Wright on that game in the video preview that he gave. So Icelandic champions against the Albanian champions. I won last week on that game, the last kick of the match nearly on Egnatia. I personally think that Breidablik will win the second leg, but it wouldn't surprise me if it went to extra time. Just a 1-0 advantage there. Zrinski against Virtus. There's no odds offered on Zrinski. The reason is they're playing a team from San Marino. Virtus are 60-1 to win the second leg. The handicap is as big as minus 3.25. It should be a convincing home win, but they're 2-0 up. They don't need to rack up the score. So I can't really get involved in that game there. Buducnost against Noah. Noah, of course, the Armenian champions, won 1-0 last week. A lot expected them to win more. There was a huge move on them last week, Rory. They went in from minus 120 to, I think, minus 600 on the day. They did win on the money line. It didn't cover the handicap. That could be quite a tight game, I think. Under wouldn't surprise me there. And then we've got an interesting one, Interclub d'Escaldes, the Andorran champions against FCSB. The Andorran teams have done really well in Europe so far in this qualifying window. And the FCSB, I think FCSB are the best team at this stage of qualifying. Them and Malmo are the two best teams. And they won the first leg 3-1. They will go through. I like a bet for this game. I like the corners over 9.5. Partly because I think FCSB could completely dominate territorially. But the Andorran team, there were 16 corners in the first leg, and the Andorran team racked up 6 of them. Teams like this tend to play for set pieces because that is an area where they can get at teams. I think they'll have a go as well into Club des Galdes. They're only 3-1 down, and they won the second half last week. So, and you're at, of course, altitude in Andorra, so it's not an absolute banker that FCSB will win. But I do like over 9.5 corners in that game. That would actually be my best bet of the day. In terms of either that one or the Malmo over, I think I would go with. But you've got a match that you're interested in tomorrow, Rory. It's in the Shelbourne game. I've not got a graphic for it, but this is a battle between Ireland and Northern Ireland, isn't it?
Yes, a bit of a derby, it has to be said, between the two. One coming up from Dublin up to Belfast for this one, and I think it should be quite a hard fought encounter. It was 1-0 last week to Shelbourne, who were formerly the team of Damien Duff, who won the league last year, of course. He's now left. Joey O'Brien has come in to replace him just this last week. But they won at the weekend on Friday night. They beat Linfield it was 1-0, but it was pretty comfortable. I mean, Linfield didn't really cause them too many issues. I think Shelbourne were the better team. And another thing, the FAI, the Irish League, is well underway as well, whereas Linfield are not. So I think that, again, works very much in the favour of Shelbourne. They'll be much more match ready for this than Linfield. And I think with that, based on the fact that Linfield are probably going to have to, they are going to have to kind of come out and go for it a little bit here. Shelbourne will have the space to kind of pick them off. Whereas in that first leg, I can sort of highlights of this, Linfield were kind of sat back in their own half, trying to soak up the pressure and try and kind of absorb things. And they won't be able to do that this week against Shelbourne. So I think Shelbourne, Tino bet for me. I was at minus 106 when I last looked. But yeah, I think that's just very much Shelbourne are a little bit better of a side. And I think they'll be, if not comfortable, I think they'll certainly get through. So I think it's quite a safe bet. And you're basically getting money line back. So yeah, I think Shelbourne are a better team. Linfield, who I believe had a good run. It was either this year or last year. But yeah, for me, just not quite the same level of quality. The Irish League is kind of very much on the up. And the presence of Damien Duff was part of that. And I think they'll have enough kind of residual kind of bounce as well from Joey O'Brien to get through this one.
I always find it weird how the League of Ireland plays basically a summer league and the Northern Ireland League is more conventional for, England, Scotland and stuff. It baffles me. But I also sometimes get asked, what is the better league, the Northern Ireland League or the League of Ireland? And do you know what? It's one of those where I'm not that familiar with the two leagues, but Ireland is better, isn't it? League of Ireland overall. I mean, the team that nearly knocked out Mulder last year in the Conference League, I've actually forgotten what they're called. My apologies to their fans out there that they quite impressed me. I need to look that one up, but yeah,
I did. I remember watching that penalty shootout as well, but yeah.
Was that St. Patrick's?
Shamrock Rovers.
Shamrock Rovers. How can I forget Shamrock Rovers? Yeah, they impressed me, especially that time of year. So Shelbourne will look out there tomorrow. Yeah, and William Jenner. I have backed the Red Imps. Kick off in 7 minutes time. This is one of those kind of weird. Feels a bit weird because I've backed a Gibraltar team. I don't think I've ever backed a Gibraltar team before. But last week I expected this is Lincoln Red Imps against Vikingur Geta. Vikingur Geta are from the Faroe Islands. I expected the Faroe team to win at home. Just tough place, really. No one wants to go there. But actually, this Vikingur Geta side are awful. They're something like 6th in the Faroese League, which is not a bad league. The top 2 in that league are not too bad. But the Lincoln Red Imps went there and absolutely outplayed them. They could have had 4 or 5 goals. Now, if we get anything like the repeat of that, they're just going to be too strong to win. They don't have to win. That always concerns me. But if they were that dominant away from home, they really should have too much. They completely dominate domestically, these Lincoln Red Imps, the Gibraltar champions. And it's a case of, I think put them against sort of decent or semi-decent opposition, they would struggle. But this Vikingur Geta side are absolute trash. to be honest. So, yes, I have backed the Lincoln Red Imps. They're minus 125.
Stick that up on the wall in the dressing room, Vikingur. Steve Wyss, these are absolute trash.
Yeah, I've done the team talk for them. The final, they're watching this live now. And like, we're going to prove him wrong. But I think the Red Imps can get a result here, personally. So, anyway, put your best bets in chat for the Champions League qualifying today or tomorrow. There's another match on tomorrow. It's Luda Gerrits, actually, away at Dynamo Minsk. What would you be best bet out of those, do you think? Rory, could pick one.
Best bet out of those, honestly, I'd probably take the Shelbourne one tomorrow. Today, I think Malmo is very much the safest. I think if you want your money back, get on the Malmo one. I think Shkendija is the one that tickles my fancy the most, though, out of the three.
Yeah, there's some good ones there. I do like that Malmo over as well. But for me, the corners in the Interclub de Scaldes match against FCSB over 9.5 corners. Brian M asks, who am I taking out of Vikingur Geta versus Auckland City? That is a really good question. I
mean, Auckland City got a draw against Boca Juniors. So
I am going to take Auckland City. Yeah, I mean, look, they got a draw against, like you said, against Boca. Both sides are pretty much amateur. So I think Vikingur Geta are semi-pro. To a degree. Auckland City, they probably weren't quite as bad as we thought they were going to be in the Club World Cup. They covered 2 out of 3 of the handicaps that are on offer. So, yeah, interesting one there. Let's hope the Red Imps can deliver today anyway. A kick-off in 4 minutes' time. There's the other main event going on in the soccer world at the minute. Actually, before that, Betting Weekly newsletter. Like I said, there was going to be for those who subscribe to this already for free, then you would have had an exclusive pick given to you on that Breidablik game from Jack Wright today. But also the Insider, of course, the main. We have 2 newsletters a week. Betting Weekly Insider comes out on Friday. In-depth stuff. There was a brilliant Open Championship preview. Which came into your inbox last Friday. And I think on this edition of the Insider, it's a French League One preview with James Eastham and editor Paul Hughes have been obviously putting that together. And there's going to be a Premier League preview on one of the feature insiders coming up soon. It's totally free. Do sign up for it, and it will go into your inbox every Friday and Monday as well. Okay, yeah, Women's Euro 2025 is now at the quarter-final stage. We've got a futures market there. And I'm glad you're on, Rory, because Spain, we've had quite a lot of interest about Spain. Lewis Jones was on one of the Betting Weekly live shows a week or 2 ago and said, you want to get on Spain now, plus 130, I think it was. They're now minus 125 to win the tournament. England plus 400, France plus 600. But it does seem that Spain are the clear class act in this tournament. There seems quite a big gulf between them and the next team. How excited is the whole nation about the women's national team right now, Rory? And do you think that they really are significantly above the rest of them left in this tournament?
Yeah, I feel a bit for the women's team because the Club World Cup has been a bit of a distraction, and it's certainly given some of the media an excuse to kind of talk about that instead of the women's game. So I feel like it's gone a bit under the radar, but now it's into the knockout stages that will be kind of picked up a little bit more. Spain, I mean, the discussion kind of being had is whether Spain are kind of a level above or whether they can be got at. So I think Spain, there's similarities to Barcelona. They obviously have so many kind of Barcelona's players in their side, and there's so much crossover between the two stylistically as well that you can get at them. And you think you can kind of bully them a little bit on the right day, but that day only comes around once every kind of 10, 20 games. So yeah, I think you need to be very much on it. Spain, for me, clear favourites. I think that top 2 is not going to get you much back, but it is very much safe money. The winner for me, minus 125, is still decent enough value based on all things considered. And yeah, I mean, you've got a side which has Alexia Putellas and Aitana Bonmatí. There's 4 Ballon d'Ors in there, and Aitana Bonmatí is only just coming back into the side. And so yeah, you've got so much quality and so many options that in terms of on paper, right, quality, what have we got on paper? Spain are by distance for me the best team. And in terms of what they've done previously on the pitch, I think Spain are also probably the best side out there. It's just a case of whether they can be caught out or whether somebody can have a little bit of a tactical shift against them. I think Montse Tomé she's obviously been part of the World Cup winning side during the kind of 2023 World Cup, but still for me yet to entirely convince, it has to be said, as a kind of tactician or somebody that kind of really has earned the respect of her peers, put it like that, in terms of management. But in terms of the quality on the pitch, and we saw in the 2023 World Cup that this Spain side can kind of manage themselves to a World Cup, that they do have the ability to just kind of steamroll these teams. And again, in that quarterfinal, coming on to kind of a pick, they're playing against Switzerland. You're looking at value. How do I get value out of this? Is it goals? Is it kind of corners? That kind of thing. For me, Spain, I'm looking at Aitana Bonmati to score or assist at -112. I think she'll play a role in this. She's only just come back from meningitis, as it happens. She played in their last game, started it, and then she probably, I think, will start this game against Switzerland. I think she will also, if she doesn't, she's obviously going to come on and she will have a bit of a point to prove, because she'll be angry that she's not in the starting lineup. She's that kind of player. And I think she's a cut above the rest for me, even above Putellas, I think, who has loads of ability and has probably been in better form, has been in better form in this tournament. But Bonmati for me is the one that really makes things tick. And Bonmati to score assist at -112. But Spain heavy favourites against a Switzerland side that I was looking at it, and they played Finland and Norway, and they only got out of the group with 4 points. Finland, Norway, and Iceland. Iceland was their only win out of that. And those three opposition, Norway are a bit of a power in the women's game. They do have Ada Hegerberg, who was formerly one of the best players in the world as well. She's right up there. But in terms of kind of what they've faced so far, Switzerland, the hosts, it should be mentioned as well, will be met with a different class of opposition in Spain. And I think this might be quite one-sided, it has to be said.
Yeah, Bonmati Aitana to score assist, -112. With Bet Rivers, I've got to remind everyone that there's tons of markets here. Nearly, there's over 500 bets available on the Bet Rivers website for the women's for this match, Spain against Switzerland. The 4 quarterfinals, just to remind people, we start with Norway against Italy. That is in Geneva. England face Sweden in Zurich. By all accounts, England have again looked out with the best side of the draw. Often seems to happen, doesn't it, with England teams in the last decade or so. The best drawn horse doesn't always win, though. And then, of course, in Basel, France against Germany, that should be quite a spicy game. And then from Bern, Spain against Switzerland. That is on the 18th of July. And that is your bet of the round there. Bonmati Aitana to score or assist for Spain at -112. Put your best bets in for women's Euros if you have been following this tournament. Spain do look a bit good to me. I can't really see beyond them from what I've seen on the field. They just seem a class apart. Anything can happen in a final or something. But they do just seem very, very good indeed. I did say that I would give some Open Championship notable wages, early wages here on the tournament. It starts on Thursday, of course, from Portrush. Remember the house special. Just log into your Bet Rivers account, place a pre-tournament bet for the Open Championship, and you will get a 30% pre-tournament profit boost. Brilliant offer from Bet Rivers. And at the moment, the biggest wager so far, notable wages, nearly $7,000 on Rory McIlroy to finish in the top 10 at -139. He missed the cut here last time at Portrush. But that particular bettor is very confident he can at least top 10. We've had a $2,000 play on Scotty Scheffler to win at +500, and also a $3,000 play on Scheffler at top 20 at -300. A huge play here on Ryan Fox to win the Open Championship at 80-1, $1,200. Now that would be a very, very nice payout, Rory.
It's a lot of pizza, Steve.
That's more than a lot of pizza. That one really stuck out to me as a huge play. A grand also on Bryson DeChambeau to win, 27-1 there. And most of the tickets at the moment, no surprise, is on Scottish Effler. 13% of the tickets and 22% of the money. Just some early data there ahead of the Open Championship at Portrush. Tomorrow, do join Betting Weekly Live. Dan Roper, Neil Channing, along with Simon Holden. They're going to break it down just like they did with the US Open. And they're going to try and find you the winner of the tournament, some good value plays, plus other props as well. So absolutely join us at 11 a.m. tomorrow. You're on YouTube, Twitch, on X, multi-platform streaming now. I did say at the end of the show we would have a quick look at some La Liga futures with you being on the show. And you're interested in the relegation market, Rory. Now, Bet Rivers couldn't price this up too far in advance because we didn't know who was going to be in the league until 2 weeks ago, somewhat ridiculously. We do know now. We now know the makeup of the 20 teams in La Liga for the 2025-2026 campaign. The relegation market is up, and I can tell you now, Real Oviedo are the favourites to be relegated, directly relegated at -112. Elche plus 125, Levante plus 140, Espanyol plus 175, and Alaves are plus 250. Those make up the top. I mean, to be fair, most of the teams are below 10-1 to win. You've only got, I think, 7 or 8 teams bigger than 10-1. Valencia plus 700. Who's going to go down from La Liga next season, Rory? Is there a team we need to get on right now in this market?
Yeah, for me, it's Alaves plus 250. Alaves have, for me, were quite fortunate. They deserve to stay up last season, but for me, took some wrong decisions last season. They shouldn't have sacked their manager in November. Chacho Claudette, who did come in and has kept his job, did keep them up. And they do have some good players. They've been in the league a little while now. That's 2-3 seasons, and out of the last kind of 5, there's 4. So they're used to this. They know what they're doing. They've got kind of some kind of basic, strong La Liga players. But I think a big issue for me is Kike Garcia. Their top goal scorer last season, 15 goals he got, has gone for free, so they've not even got any money for him. Joaquin Panicelli, who was on loan at Mirandés, who Real Oviedo beat in the final of the playoffs to get up. I think Panicelli will get snapped up by someone, so they're going to be left without a kind of key goal scorer. For me, that's always kind of the big red flag for these relegation teams. If they don't have goals, that's going to be a major problem. Abkar, one of their star centre-backs, is also left on a free. Plus 250 for me, a manager that I'm not entirely convinced by is kind of a guarantee in the same ways that Bordalas is for Getafe, a squad that is solid without kind of standing out. I think that there's room for improvement there. Missing goals, for me, those are obviously this can change with the transfer window coming up. And if that does happen, you can always cash out early. But unless they sign kind of a really good striker, or if they hang on to Panicelli, who I think is very good, then I think it could be in a bit of bother. And the other one for me to look at, Levante, I think it was at plus 110, plus 140. It's kind of struggling up and down a little bit. But for me, again, goals are going to be an issue. I mean, they've got Roger, who scored 11, Morales, who scored 12, but Morales now 36 years old. He still has ability, but do I like him to reproduce that in the first division? I don't know. Roger Bruguet, again, a player that did come from La Liga and has kind of gone down to Segunda, done well, performed quite well there. These teams need goals for me, and it's not like Levante or Alaves have loads of money to go out and spend and bring these in. So yeah, I have my concerns about them. Kotarashvili as well, the Georgian international, has also left Levante, so that's kind of a big miss for them. So those are the two teams that I'm kind of keeping an eye on early doors. Oviedo and Elche, I think, are kind of, in some senses, more obvious candidates because they've, in theory, got less resources. But I do like the manager, Eder Sarabia, at Elche, former Barcelona assistant. And I also quite like Real Oviedo's storyline, which counts for more than you'd think. They're managed by the Pachuca group, who've obviously been very successful in Mexico, had Pachuca at the Club World Cup. And I think with Real Oviedo, they've also got a couple of kind of wise heads in recruitment. I mean, Rondon, we know how much we love Rondon. He's back in La Liga after 13 years. So he's somebody experienced that they know can score goals up front. Alemão is another kind of big target man who I think will score a few goals. So, and of course, Santi Cazorla, who's still magic with that left and right foot. So yeah, I think Oviedo is one to stay away from, even if they are favourites, just because although they do have kind of maybe a few more holes in their squad, less time to prepare. I think the way the club will react to being in the first division for the first time in 24 years, I think it was, is going to really kind of spur them on in a way that the others won't quite have.
Do you know, I'm just looking at these relegation odds, and there's a team that really interests me. The 6th favourites to go down. But we'll probably, I've tried to find a market, there isn't one yet, but will be in the top 6 to win the Conference League. And that is Rayo Vallecano. That's an interesting one. I mean, the odds would suggest they probably will be mid-table and they'll be safe and probably can have a good run at the Conference League, Rory. But we have seen teams struggle in Europe before and not used to it. Would there be some legs in the plus 300 to go down?
I think they'll just about make it. I think it will be a case for Rayo if there will be 3 worse teams than Rayo. I do think that they have potential to free fall. They're a side that very much won in the margins last season. They don't have a goal scorer. Again, another team that doesn't have a proper goal scorer, which is always a worry. But I think they will just about be okay. I think the odds are nice, but I think the odds are there to tempt you with this one because I think they will just about stay up, even if I think that European run is really going to test a Rayo squad that is quite short as it is. But yeah, I think they've got a good manager and yeah, they will have just about enough to stay up for me.
Crooker, good to see you. To be fair, you were about the only one on the live show last week who gave Chelsea any chance in the final. I think you got some decent plays across the board there. Dribble chance on Chelsea and the 3.5 shots on target. You know, I was really shocked by the final, I must say, Rory. The only explanation I can think of is that it was a physical one. It looked like PSG finally had nothing left in the tank. And when you think about it, it was the 3rd game in 6 days. And just perhaps they couldn't keep it up. There'd been no sign of them slowing down. It just absolutely, easily beaten Bayern and Real Madrid back to back. But for me, it was disappointing. I was on them each way, 8-1. I was very confident they would win. But the other takeaway for me from that final, it's the first time I really talk about it on Betting Weekly Live, was that Chelsea probably are better than a lot of us give them credit for. Chelsea might be a very good one-off match team as well. You know, if you can beat PSG 3-0, it's not just a physical thing. There was some great tactics. They're the sort of team that I'm looking out for this season and say a big game against a Liverpool or Arsenal or a cup final or whatever, big semi-final, they'd probably do quite well in. But also, they were able to add to their squad, of course, during the Club World Cup. And the big squad, I think, made a huge difference there. It was a real surprise to me. Luis Enrique had got that team playing so well. I still think they're the best team in Europe, but maybe they do need sort of these longer gaps in recovery.
Yeah, I think another thing, let me take you back to that Champions League final. We all remember the kind of really impressive kind of work rate from Kvaratskhelia as well, who's brilliant in the Club World Cup again, the way he works, and that's a key factor. I think he ran out of legs a little bit earlier, about an hour mark, I think he came off at. But one of the goals for PSG against Inter in that Champions League final, it's William Pacho who keeps the ball in on the kind of goal line, and everyone was delighted to talk about that, and it was very impressive. He wasn't there, and you kind of saw Nuno Mendes was that kind of left side was exposed a little bit without Pacho to kind of come across and cover. I think Pacho is kind of a plus player. He gives you about 1.5 contributions in terms of players on the pitch, and Beraldo comparatively is probably about a 0.8. So I think he was a huge miss for PSG. And if you look at the goals, Chelsea, they came down that right-hand side with Cole Palmer, and having Pacho behind Nuno Mendes would have been a big factor. So I think, confluence of factors as any football match is, Steve. But I think, between the legs, between the missing of Pacho, I think, there was just one too many things a little bit off for PSG. But also on any given day, I mean, this Chelsea side does have 2 of the best midfielders in the world. Cole Palmer is one of the best forwards in the world. Robert Sanchez had a brilliant game as well in sticks. He made 2 or 3 really good saves in that first kind of hour or so. So there was factors there, but credit to Chelsea, who did shock everyone and certainly deserved to win as well.
Yeah, I do agree with Crooked. I think they could be. I think Jack Wright said it yesterday on Betting Weekly Live. They maybe will be worth a look to win the Champions League. I think around about the 16-1 mark, the 8-1 to win the Premier League. My issue with them in the Premier League is not the squad depth. That's excellent. It's just I think they might have problems against certain teams that play defensive. We saw them struggle to break down these sort of part of the bus teams last season a bit. They had a period, didn't they? But I think as an underdog, or when teams are going to be open against them, they are going to be mega dangerous. They could beat absolutely anyone on their day. They've proven it. They've absolutely legitimately beaten PSG. Palmer could be the player to watch again. I know he was brilliant until December last season, then he fell off a cliff a bit, doesn't he? But this could be the year where he wins everything, like personal awards, a lot. So it's an interesting one. It's an eye-opening final, the sort of result where you do have to sort of make a few big conclusions from it afterwards. But anyway, that will do for today on Betting Weekly Live. Thanks everyone who's watched live or on demand or on the new cross-platform on X or Twitch. If you could subscribe to the YouTube channel, that would be greatly appreciated. We recently got over 10,000 subscribers. Thank you so much for your support. We want to get to 11,000 as soon as possible, and any likes, of course, are appreciated as well. I'm going to watch the Lincoln Red Imps now against Vikingur Geta. It's about 15 minutes in, and it's 0-0. 2-0 to Kai Wright Almaty in the other game against Olympia Ljubljana. But best luck with everyone. What they play today, Champions League. Do watch Betting Weekly Live tomorrow. Open Championship Golf special. That's going to be a lot of fun. And Rory, it was a great pleasure as always. I'll see you. I think you're with Dan on a show soon. But it was great to have your insights.
Pleasure was all mine, Steve, as ever. And yeah, thank you to everyone who joined us. I always enjoy coming on, and even if the heat has just about beaten me in Madrid, hope I still manage to give some entertainment.
As long as you're red hot on the betting front, that's all we need. But anyway, remember to gamble responsibly, everyone. I'll catch you on Thursday and Friday. This week, we've got Lewis Jones and Nigel Seeley joining me. But tomorrow at the Open Championship show, do join that. Take care, y'all, and see you next time on Betting Weekly Live.